Welcome to Trade Treasury Payments, the podcast unlocking the future of cross-border finance.
From transaction banking and money movements
to liquidity, treasury, and cash management.
We bring you expert insights and the latest trends shaping global finance.
Welcome to the show. This podcast is in partnership with the Asian Development Bank's Trade and Supply Chain Finance Programme. My name's Dipesh Patel, and in today's show, we're going to explore how insurance and reinsurance are mobilising private capital for trade and supply chain finance, especially across emerging and developing markets. Joining us, Munich Re's Irene Port, Client Relationship and Risk Manager for Global Credit Solutions at Munich Re, who this podcast is in collaboration with. Irene, welcome.
Yeah, thanks, Dipesh, for the introduction, and happy to be with you today.
Great, thank you for joining. So, quick introduction. Tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do at Munich Re, and who are Munich Re?
Yeah, I'm with Munich Re now for 1 year. I was quite long with UniCredit, and the reason the move to Munich Re was then actually to support them in the trade finance, supply chain finance area. To bring my expertise and my contacts to Munich Re, which I gained over the years, having done trade distribution for over 20 plus years. And as I said, bringing now in my expertise here in Munich Re, and also, as I said, focusing on supporting our clients, our cedents, to cover trade and supply chain finance risk.
Thank you very much, and it's really interesting to your point on your previous role within the risk distribution and kind of secondary trade finance market space to now, because in recent years we've really seen insurance and reinsurance play a much bigger role in unlocking private capital for trade and supply chain finance. So, Irene, from your point of view, why has this become so important, especially for enabling trade in emerging markets?
Mm-hmm. As I said, I mean, in the past, and I'm coming from a bank, rather these risks were shared between the banks. But then soon, of course, there were always some insurers and reinsurers already doing this business for years. But now, and because they didn't do it in the past, was because they didn't understand the product. So also the learning process within the insurers and reinsurers. And then, especially also then, as you said, in the emerging markets, banks had scale limits which were then for the demand was not enough. So here it was really important that the insurers and the reinsurers came into the picture, to really then support these trade flows. Otherwise it wouldn't have been possible. Also in terms of the banks, because of these higher risk, they actually need to find partners who are taking it. So in the bank-to-bank market, this was not anymore possible.
Thank you. And I guess it's interesting because then the partnerships with development banks like ADB's Trade and Supply Chain Finance Program does open doors to new markets. Irene, how has Munich Re's engagement in programs such as these helped you reach markets that might otherwise be challenging or unfamiliar?
Yeah, I mean, for us, it's of course then great, to cooperate with MDBs, also in respect of then really getting into these programs. Because then you have a high diversification, not only on the so-called facultative business, not taking single risk. So this is for us then really important, to have this diversification. As you said, like in markets, when I look at the ADB program, there are countries like Armenia, Cambodia, where we would not be so familiar with. And this, of course, helps then ADB being in this market, have a reputation, knows the local bank, knows the regulators, also like the legal environment. So this gives us then a lot of comfort also then to partner with ADB or other MDBs.
Irene, thank you very much for explaining that important difference. Now, if we look ahead, what trends and signals are you seeing in trade and supply chain finance portfolios at the moment? Would you say there are new players and assets coming into the space that are perhaps changing those dynamics?
I mean, for sure, new players, but not now. Recently, they were already in the recent years, I would say. All with this non-bank investors, let's say like the asset managers, then being on the digitalization, the fintech platforms, and other institutional investors. So they are quite a bit, yeah. And this is now also for them, I guess, they had to learn the instrument, yeah. And they saw, of course, that like trade finance asset is an attractive asset, yeah. It's like short term, it's a low correlation asset class. But they first had to understand and also how to structure, because if you look at the letter of credit, side LC, yeah, short tenor, and they need like a huge volume. So if you look at then single deals, that might not work, yeah. So you had to look at the kind of a portfolio solution also, yeah. And this is all I would say, but also since years now that you look more at portfolio solution, also valid for banks, of course, not only sell single transactions, yeah, it's a lot of work, but then to bundle them, yeah. And yeah, what we see is, I would say, also more sophisticated structures now than clients are asking for longer tenors. And also because there are so much players now in the market, it's, I would say, and of course some risk are then getting better. It's high pressure on the pricing, but I think this is also not new. This is also what they said in ITFA Singapore. Yeah, was always a comment. Yeah, what we heard. Then, of course, like if you look at the corporate side, moving beyond then the top tier large corporates, you see more the second and third tier smaller suppliers, also in the emerging markets. These, I would say, are the current trends, what we are seeing.
Hey, enjoying this podcast? Hit that follow button for more. Done? Let's get back to it.
Thank you very much. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Because many insurers are beginning to take on more corporate risk in emerging economies. How are MDB programs helping insurers like Munich Re become more comfortable stepping into these kind of exposures?
Yeah, I mean, here I would also say because they are more familiar with the market, with the countries, also maybe then also with the corporate risk. So this is then more comfort for us. Having said that, if it comes to corporate risk with my unit, we still have to evaluate quite carefully. Yeah, this is then the underwriter of the underwriter. We would like to follow. We would like to see how they did the due diligence. Maybe also we want to see a credit memo. Then of course we want that they have a stake in the risk still. So in this sense, of course, as I said, great having then a partner like ADB or other MDBs, but still Munich Re would need to do their own kind of due diligence on the underlying risk.
And I guess final question for you, Irene, looking forwards, how do you see the relationship between multilateral development banks and insurers, and even reinsurers as well, perhaps if you want to comment, evolving in the future? And what role does Munich Re play in making trade finance more accessible, particularly in those emerging markets, developing markets, and kind of riskier economies?
I mean, I see it as a partnership, yeah, where then the MDBs provide their local knowledge, have their policy alignment and development credibility, while we as a reinsurer then bring the global risk management expertise and the capital depth. And of course, then we are well prepared, yeah, to respond to any market developments, and would of course also closely monitor with ADB, yeah, the activities in the various countries. And yeah, we are committed to provide ADB with our support, yeah, and that they are able then also to support their clients' needs.
Thank you very much, Irene. It was so good to have you on the show. And once again, this podcast is in partnership with the Asian Development Bank's Trade and Supply Chain Finance Program in collaboration with Munich Re. Irene, thank you very much.
No, thanks to you, Deepesh.
And don't forget to follow Trade Treasury Payments
on your favorite podcast platform.
Thanks for listening.